Katie here. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a Let's Talk About It video, and this is part 5 of Let's Talk About Disney Fan Theories. This particular video is going to be Aladdin, Hercules, and Tarzan theories. I decided from here on out, when I do my Disney Fan Theories videos, I'm gonna organize them more a little bit, instead of just having random movies all over the place. So yeah, specifically Aladdin, Hercules, and Tarzan for this video. Theory number 1. The genie from Aladdin is Mary Poppins, the fairy godmother, and every single magical being in the Disney franchise. Not only do most magical creatures in Disney share a blue motive, but each have a strong tendency, or are compelled to help those who need it most. Whether that's getting Cinderella to the ball, or helping Mulan fight Genghis Khan as Mushu, he takes whichever appearance is most relevant and appropriate for said time, which helps him become much more inconspicuous. Mary Poppins is a good example. As she is never given a direct origin, her powers are seemingly infinite and are equally whimsical. Who's to say the genie, in the midst of the suffrage movement, wouldn't take the form of a practically perfect woman? Due to the genie's apparent ability to see beyond his time, this would be his gateway to seeing which vulnerable and deserving person he is to aid next. Perhaps he is even able to aid different people at the same time in different forms, given his phenomenal cosmic power. Okay. Alright. That makes some sort of sense. I think that would be a cool, thing, but I don't think it's an actual, I don't think that's something that Disney thought about, to be quite honest. Okay, the Sultan used a genie to turn his brother, Iago, into a bird and usurp power? Why is Iago the way he is? He not only can talk, but seems highly intelligent and sentient? I hate this word. While Abu can say a few muffled words, Iago is next level, being basically a human in bird form. I think there's a very logical explanation for this. Iago was once the Sultan's older brother. He was first in line to inherit the throne until his brother, the now Sultan, got his hands on a genie and wished for his brother to be done away with. Genies can't kill anyone, so he wasn't able to kill his brother. So instead, the Sultan wished for his brother to be turned into a bird and sold him. In Return to Jafar, it is revealed that Jafar saved Iago, and were it not for him, he'd still be at the bazaar saying, "Polly, want a cracker?" Iago likely knew that Jafar had political ambitions and a lust for power, so he convinced him that together they could achieve mutual goals. He also may have told Jafar about genies, as he himself witnessed their power firsthand. So Jafar bought Iago and took him back to the palace and convinced the Sultan that he had lost all his human memories and intelligence. If the Sultan found out he still possessed his human intelligence and sentience, he would have killed him. This explains why Iago always pretended to be a dumb, non-sentient animal around anyone besides Jafar in the first movie. Thinking the threat to his rule was forever gone, the Sultan decided to keep him alive so he could torment him forever, stuffing moldy crackers into his mouth to forever mock the former heir. It's extremely obvious that Iago did not enjoy those crackers, so the fact that the Sultan kept torturing the bird with them despite his disdain for them would make sense if he had a prior history with Iago. Iago and Jafar may have worked out a deal where Iago would allow Jafar to become Sultan, at least for now, as long as Iago could get his revenge on the Sultan and return to his palace life. Perhaps eventually Iago would plot a way to retake his throne, but in the events of Aladdin, he was only able to achieve his first goal of tormenting the Sultan with the same moldy crackers that were once shoved down his own throat. In Return of Jafar, Iago and Jafar have a falling out, but Iago's royal past explains why he is set on finding a way to return to the palace, even though it is filled with his enemies. As a talking sentient parrot, he could easily make a living performing on the street, become a celebrity, and potentially very wealthy in the process. He wanted to return to the palace because he felt it was his birthright and it was the life he knew. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. 'Cause, like, it's true, why can Raja not talk at all? Abu can only mumble some words, but Iago has the intelligence of a human. That, it would make a lot of sense if he was a human before and was turned into a parrot. Yeah, that's a good theory. Iago was intelligent and sentient because he used the genie as a parrot. In Aladdin, Iago is depicted as highly intelligent, sentient, and possessing a human-like personality. How is this possible? It did not seem that Jafar's sorcery powers were that potent before he wished to become the most powerful sorcerer in the world. My theory is that Iago as a parrot stumbled across the lamp somehow. Perhaps he was a pet who was taken into the Cave of Wonders by another seeker of the lamp, one who was not deemed worthy, so as his owner was killed by the cave collapsing. Iago survived and found the lamp in the cave. He touched it, and while still an unintelligent animal, he may have been capable of basic comprehension like a dog is. His first wish may have been to become intelligent or to become like a human. After becoming intelligent, his second wish was to escape the Cave of Wonders. His third wish may have been to have a rich owner, so he was made Jafar's pet. Then the lamp returned to the Cave of Wonders after all three wishes were exhausted. This explains how Jafar knew about the lamp, as Iago told him about it. I kind of like the last theory better. It kind of makes more sense to me than a pet parrot rubbing a lamp by accident, and yeah, I don't know. The other one sounds better, where he was actually a human turned into a parrot. Disney's Aladdin Explained. I fill all the plot holes with no cement in all theories. Aladdin is one of my favorite movies of all time, but it always bothered me, all the inconsistencies and absurdity. I am a man that will not take it's a cartoon for answer, because I enjoy overanalyzing everything. With that being said, here are all the explanations for the movie, with theories in no particular order. How come the genie was able to put Aladdin out of the cave without him asking? Aladdin was called the diamond in the rough, so my theory is simple. I think Aladdin might have been the chosen one, so he gets more than 3 wishes, so the genie wouldn't be able to do the same with any other master. Jafar in the sequel is very tricky, but that's because you can bend the meaning of wishes, yet I believe Jafar might be the opposite of our genie. He can grant more than 3 wishes to the evil chosen one and the one who will free him. Oh, and the genie played dumb, but he knew the wish passed, so perhaps the number of wishes for Aladdin was 4, not 3, or more, since he's able to take Aladdin out of the water in spite of him being unconscious, although you could argue Aladdin in his mind wanted to escape. Why does the genie know a lot about pop culture? My theory in my actual headcanon is that the genie gets new masters from different times. If you count the year Aladdin might have happened, the old days of Asia. The genie said he was trapped in the lamp for 10,000 years, but maybe that's just because he gets sent to a new timeline, and until they find him, he just lives there. I doubt he could get more than 2 masters in a time interval of 10,000 years, making his desire to stay free more interesting, since he just wants to stay in one place. We have to consider that the genie uses Disneyland-esque clothes at the end when saying he's going to see the world. Perhaps he can now visit any timeline at any time, or is he stuck in Aladdin's time? That I can't answer for sure, not enough proof. Why the Cave of Wonders? I think after a lot of masters, the lamp decided to send him to a timeline where he would find someone who will free him, in this case Aladdin, but to make it happen, the lamp created the Cave of Wonders to keep evil people outside, unbeknown to the genie. That timeline was the best one, or perhaps the lamp just sent him to a very old timeline and put him in the Cave of Wonders until someone was of pure heart enough to enter the cave and eventually free him. And then the last theory from this person is, since the genie doesn't have a first name like Jafar, I assume the genie wasn't a human. He was created to be a genie and help humanity. Okay, let's talk about each of these real quick. Okay, first of all, I think Genie was able to pull Aladdin out of the water without Aladdin asking, because Genie was his friend. I mean, at that point, weren't they like friends and stuff? Like, why wouldn't he want to save his friend? I think Genie has the free will to do other things. You know, like saving his friends from drowning. So, why does a genie know a lot about pop culture? So with this theory, it's very possible that, you know, Genie has been sent to other, like, timelines, and stuff like that. It does make the most sense. The theory about the Cave of Wonders, it does make sense that the Masters of the Lamp would create a place for the lamp to stay until someone, you know, with a pure heart could free the genie. That makes sense. And Genie not being a human, I also agree. I agree. He wasn't a human before he was a genie. The genie created an entire horrifying kingdom from thin air when Aladdin wished to be a prince. In Aladdin, when he first makes his wish, Aladdin specifically says, "Genie, I wish for you to make me a prince." He doesn't say, "I wish for you to make me seem like a prince." Here's where it gets weird. Prince isn't just an honorific, it's a job title, one that implies that he's in line to be the ruler of a kingdom. This gives us two options. 1. The genie commits a magical coup against the rulers of an existing kingdom, or 2. The genie creates an entire new kingdom out of thin air. Later in the movie, it's implied that Jafar implies he's never heard of a Babwa, meaning it is most likely the second option. The implications of this are a little horrifying. In order to create a kingdom, this implies citizens, buildings, animals, and economy, etc. Where did these people come from? Did the genie create life out of thin air like a god, or did he kidnap people? Further, who the hell is running this kingdom? In the sequels, we see that Aladdin's dad is a thief, so he's not the king. We know Aladdin's not running it. He's off in I can never say this, Agrabah, trying to get laid. Further assuming the genie created humans to fill Aladdin's kingdom. Do they have memories? Or were they confused as hell about who they were and how they got there? When Jafar undid Aladdin's wish, were they all killed? Any way you look at the genie instantly making Aladdin a prince, there's terrifying implications. I'd never thought about that before. So, my guess, I don't know. Jafar is the true hero of the movie, albeit a tragic one. Aside from the brilliant musical known as Twisted, Jafar is actually one of the most misunderstood characters in fiction, and he certainly deserves a movie centered around his backstory. This man has been loyal to the Sultan his entire life. Yeah, he manipulated him, but his master was a reckless man-child and a bona fide dumbass, so who on earth could blame the guy for doing so? Agrabah would probably be worse without his guidance. And how does the Sultan repay him? By taking the word of a literal thief and prince over his. The only reason why Jafar descended into madness was because no one saw things from his point of view, even though he genuinely cared for the safety of his own kingdom, and because a criminal took everything from him. So what if he tried to kill Aladdin on multiple occasions? It was for the greater good. False impersonation is an actual crime that goes against the law, folks. If this were to happen in real life, things would have gone much differently. So I fail to understand how Aladdin is really the good guy here. No. Jafar is not a good guy. He's not a hero. he was going to force Jasmine to marry him against his will. That's not a good guy. That's not a good person. So, no, I don't agree. Abu was the only reason Aladdin survived the Cave of Wonders. To get this out of the way up front, no, I do not mean Abu snatching the lamp at the last minute so they can wish their way out. So when we're introduced to the Cave of Wonders, it's a giant sand panther asking for the diamond in the rough and almost immediately chomps down on the first sucker tossed into it. Later, when Aladdin is presented to the cave, he is given additional instruction not to touch anything except the lamp. He goes in, Sand Panther doesn't chomp. He does what is asked. Abu touches the ruby, chaos ensues. So on the surface, it would seem Abu caused the trouble to begin with, but first we need to break down the biology of the Cave of Wonders. So the cave seems to be some kind of sentient big cat made out of sand. It allows people in through its mouth, so it could be assumed that the treasure caverns are the throat, stomach, intestines, etc. The traps could be compared to bodily functions, and carpet can be compared to the tongue. We can see the intestines angle in the fact that Aladdin has to walk through doorways to get to each section of the cave, but it seems like a straight path to get to the lamp chamber. Similarly, the digestive tract is separated by narrowing of pathways and sphincters to allow one-way flow. Carpet is like a tongue, since it freely moves in the mouth and forces Aladdin down the cave into the stomach. We know the lamp chamber is the stomach because that's where the lava bubbles up like stomach acid to digest anything that gets in there. So at this point you're asking, why does any of this matter? Well, it matters because what happened to the bodies? What happened to all those other rough diamonds that were tossed in there and chomped? If this cave was not a living creature, the entrance of the cave would be littered with corpses. But by the time Aladdin gets there, maybe a week or two after the one guy we know gets eaten, not a body in sight. This leads me to believe Carpet, the only thing we can see freely moving in the cave, is responsible for dragging the corpses into the stomach and dumping them in the lava to be digested. Well, why didn't it just eat Aladdin, you're probably asking. Well, it probably wasn't hungry. Just ate a dude about a week or two ago, and you gotta assume a creature like that doesn't get or need a meal very often, so no need to chomp right away. This is further supported by the fact that once they enter the stomach and start messing with stuff, there's a violent reaction as if a stomach was having indigestion. Possibly on the verge of vomiting as Carpet scoops them up and rushes them to the entrance. So about Abu, how's he responsible for the save? Well, Carpet was completely dormant until it noticed Abu. He was used to chucking people in the lava, but probably never saw a pet before, and Abu piqued its interest. Had Abu not been there, it is likely Carpet would have remained dormant, waiting for its opportunity to chuck Aladdin in the lava. It later became friends with Aladdin, but doubtful he would give him a chance, if not outright killed him, like some of the other traps in there, if a curiosity like Cheeky Monkey wasn't in there. That's a lot of information to take in. That's a lot of information to take in, and I don't really know what to do with that information, to be quite honest. So yeah, I don't know what to do with that information. So, I'm just not going to do anything with it. I don't have a reaction to that one. Okay, there are incredibly powerful sorcerers still out there. Jafar, the creepy, twisted parrot abuser for all his faults, brings to mind an interesting point that isn't explored in the movies. His first wish, as a previous theory has pointed out, was squandered out of stupidity because of his low view of what was important. But his second wish is where things get interesting. He wishes to be the most powerful sorcerer in the world. Now, if Genie had have given him the power of illusions and parlor tricks, I wouldn't really bat an eye, thinking, okay, yeah, sorcery is hard. But he basically gives him physics-defying, matter-creating baller powers that allow him to conjure chains and giant hourglasses out of nothing. Then he turns himself into a giant snake with the majority of the body forming out of fire into solid matter. That's pretty freaking powerful in my opinion. Which brings me to the point of this post. Who was the most powerful sorcerer before Jafar? Because though other theories have proven that Genie goes all out when granting Aladdin's prince wish, he likes Aladdin. He does not, however, like Jafar. So my idea is that he made Jafar only marginally more powerful than the next most powerful sorcerer. Who the hell is that badass? Is there a cabal of sorcerers we don't know about? A council of mages that pushes each other to the limits of magic? These are questions I would like answered. That makes a lot of sense. I agree, we need more information about who is the most powerful sorcerer. Iago's superior intelligence may be the result of Jafar's sorcerous experiments. Iago might be the smartest mortal character in the movie. He is not just able to speak, but also to think and scheme, and generally knowledgeable. He seems to have been expecting the disappointing results from the thief in regards to entering the Cave of Wonders. He has the foresight to try to eliminate Jasmine before she becomes a real threat. He can mimic voices and personalities better than the Genie. He sneaks in and steals the lamp in all of 5 minutes. Overall, he is far more capable than any of the other animals and most of the humans too. Abu and Raja, presumably most animals in this world, are somewhat anthropomorphic, but still much lower in mental capacity compared to humans. This would justify why the Sultan always treats Iago like a regular parrot. Abu has a bit of personality. He berates Aladdin and Monkey Screech for getting distracted by a pretty lady. He brings a key to the prison. When put in a novel situation, though, he really struggles and spends most of his time failing to find a way to peel a banana. Raja is even more limited in how he interacts with Jasmine and is basically a guard dog. The horny flamingo Iago knocks down, sweeping the leg, that's a smart move to use on a flamingo, is only capable of grunting amorously. Perhaps Jafar found a spell to summon a familiar and increase the intelligence of a pet he already had. We know he had a secret lab where he performed the Find My Aladdin spell. But if he succeeded, why is it a big secret? Iago always pretended to be a regular parrot in front of everyone except when he is alone with Jafar. Jafar must have realized Iago would be incredibly useful as a spy. That might be why he got a parrot in the first place, but was disappointed with the results with a normal bird. An innocent-looking bird who has all the intelligence of Gilbert Gottfried, a parrot who cannot just repeat words but really understand and initiate conversation and mimic people perfectly and solve complex problems on his own. This is why the Sultan is never allowed to see Iago break character, since spying on him is probably Iago's #1 priority. And also why Iago is so sick of those damn crackers after spending so much time alone with the Sultan. I'm still for the theory that Iago was a human before. That's still the theory that I'm the most vibing with. We have our last Aladdin theory. The Cave of Wonders was the 3rd wish of the previous owner of the lamp. We don't know much about the previous lamp holder, but we can connect him to 3 unnatural circumstances that I believe are his 3 wishes. First is his vast amount of wealth, definitely an unnatural amount, enough to fill caves. I believe this is to be his first wish, like it would be for most. Second is a magic carpet. I believe after his first wish, something like, I wish for more riches than I could ever spend, he then realized that his travel was still limited by technology, so the second wish was used for an unlimited means of transportation. Finally, for the theory to make sense, the lamp holder would have had to be quite content with his first 2 wishes. With unlimited money and transportation, it's not hard to believe. So for his final wish, he wanted to share his fortune with someone who deserved it. As a final wish, I wish that after I die, all my possessions, including the lamp, be locked away until someone deserving comes along to take it, someone who otherwise would have never had a chance, a diamond in the rough, thus creating the Cave of Wonders and an eternal defender awaiting the right person to come along. That makes a lot of sense. No, I really like that theory. I like that theory a lot. Okay, so this is actually a different day. Obviously a different location than where I was filming before. But, when I was filming the first part of this video, I got, really sick feeling, and my stomach was bothering me, and I have, acid reflux GERD, which is when, different foods, make, I don't know how to explain it, but, you know, like when you're hungry and your stomach rumbles and sometimes, like, you can hear it? Well, it does that with, like, when my stomach's upset, like, it makes, like, gurgling noises and you can hear it. And every time I tried to, like, start talking, my stomach would gurgle. So I got really irritated and I stopped filming. But I'm going to finish filming it now. So, we left off on Aladdin, but now we're changing to Hercules. So, this theory is Hades' flame/hair color represents his power/emotions perfectly despite seeming backwards. In the movie, Hades has blue flames for hair, and when he gets upset, it turns red-orange. Many would point out that this doesn't make much sense because blue flames are hotter, so when he gets angrier, it seems to suggest his flames get stronger, but the color actually would suggest that they get weaker as red-orange flames aren't as hot as blue flames. Hades' henchmen become very afraid of him when he's angry, and the way his flames grow big and bright suggests he's getting stronger with his anger, but I think it's meant to represent him actually getting weaker. Think about it. Through the entirety of the movie, Hades is at his most dangerous when he's calm and collected with blue flames. It's when he loses his cool and gets angry where he seems to be most vulnerable and starts to really slip up with his plans. Rather than staying calm and thinking through rationally, he erupts and just goes all out, which fails. It gives Hades' character a moral to the story as well. If you lose your cool and erupt in anger, you only make yourself weaker. That's a really good point. I always, wondered that. Because, blue flames are hotter than, red and orange flames. So you would, think that, when he's angry, his hair would be blue instead of red. And it's not. But I think that's a really good theory, honestly. And the angrier he gets, the weaker he gets, which makes a lot of sense, too. Zeus purposely lost to the Titans in order to give Hercules a chance to be a hero. In the scene where the Titans attack Olympus, Zeus throws thunderbolt after thunderbolt with absolutely zero effect on the Titans. That's a bit odd, considering in his youth, he managed to defeat them all single-handedly, but maybe he just got old. Except, of course, the minute Hercules frees him, he tells him, "Watch your old man at work," and starts kicking Titan ass. What changed? Zeus was purposely holding back in order to give Hercules a chance to prove himself and become a god. Remember, the requirement to become a god was for a hero to make a truly selfless sacrifice, and Hercules attacking the Titans absolutely could accomplish that. Remember, him getting his strength back was completely unexpected. If he had chosen to fight against the Cyclops while powerless and died, he would have sacrificed himself to himself for Thebes. If he had somehow survived that and gone to Mount Olympus, he would be even more likely to die at the hands of a Titan, sacrificing himself for his family. Even with his strength, that fight was an uphill battle where he easily could have died. In addition, Zeus states that a selfless sacrifice is required, but come on, Zeus has the power to do it. He's just trying to make it official so no other gods can complain or state that he's playing favorites. If a muscle-bound guy shows up and saves you from near certain death, nobody's going to question his promotion to godhood, so Hercules likely wouldn't even need to die just to arrive and save the day. But how could Zeus have known that? Intelligent planning isn't exactly his strong suit. Simple, Zeus talked to the three fates as well. Hades was able to coerce information out of them in just a few seconds of flattery. Do you think that in 18 years of looking after his son, Zeus never checked out the people who can see the future? Or if they aren't available, guess who can see the future? Apollo, Zeus' son, who is standing 5 feet away from him for the rest of the movie. So I'm trying to remember back to that part in the movie. Because I'm not really remembering it. The Titan part. It's been a hot minute since I watched Hercules. But yeah, it makes sense because, Hercules, all the other gods would most likely want proof that Hercules was, able to be a god. And, not just Zeus's word for it, because if you know Greek mythology, you know Zeus's word isn't always his word. Um, so, yeah, that theory makes sense. Herc and Hades aren't that different. Right off the bat, we find out that Hades was handpicked by Zeus against his will to run the afterlife, which he adamantly loathes. Zeus never offers Hades or even Hercules an explanation. He just laughs about it. Herc, of course, winds up taken from Olympus, but approximately 14 or so years later, he's offered a way back. This is something Hades was never given, as far as we know. In short, Wonder Boy was privileged by happening to be the boss's son. From this point on, both characters are aiming to return to Olympus for purely self-centered reasons. But where Hercules is channeling this desire into good deeds, Hades tries to recruit an army because, again, he wasn't told he could come back. It's not until the third act that Herc finally becomes different from Hades and that he finds something else, something greater than Olympus: love. But we all know this. Why is Hades so mistreated? We're told very little about the situation prior to Zeus seizing power. Just that the Titans ruled and it was bad, and Zeus cast them into a pit. It'd be easy to say, well, Hades flies off the handle constantly, it makes sense to send him away from people. But we don't know that he was like that before his assignment. He could have only become that way after centuries of an awful job, social life, and living situation. I'd be cranky too. That's not to say that Hades is a good guy. After all, the one time he expresses concern for anyone other than himself, it's clearly to get the Titans to do his bidding. I simply argue that the scene painted is less black and white than it appears, much as Herc and Hades both are. So the deal with... I don't know, like, if you guys know much about Greek mythology. I was, like, a Greek mythology buff in high school, and... you know, it was one of my favorite subjects. And in Greek mythology, it was kind of like Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades were, like, given these three options. And Hades kind of just got the short end of the stick. Like Zeus got to be the god of the sky, Poseidon the god of the sea, and then Hades got left with the god of the underworld. So it's not like he wasn't, like, allowed to be on Mount Olympus, like, you know, it's just that I think the other gods were probably just scared of him, even though it wasn't his choice to become the god of the underworld. So, yeah, I can see where Herc and Hades are similar, but I mean, I feel like with Greek mythology, we see Hades as the villain every single time, just because he's the god of the underworld, and when people think about, like, death and stuff, you know, Hades is a villain because, you know, he, like, pulls people to their death, or, you know, whatever the situation is, you know, Hades represents death, and so people are automatically like, oh, he's the bad guy. But really, if you know anything about Greek mythology, Zeus is actually a really bad person. And I mean, Hades isn't exactly, you know, perfect either, but Zeus is actually, like, not that good of a guy. But yeah, I can see where Hercules and Hades might be similar in the Disney movie, for the aspect of they're both trying to get back to Mount Olympus. But in real Greek mythology, I don't think they're that similar. Okay, this is the last Hercules theory. The film is Zeus propaganda. One of the main criticisms of Disney Hercules is how far off from the original myth the story is, which it absolutely is. I had always joked that it was basically Greek mythology fan fiction, but then a different theory struck me. Aside from Hercules, who is painted in the best light, who is presented as loving, just true? Who sends Hercules on his noble quest to learn what a true hero is, while spouting about how it's the strength of your heart that matters? Around whose actions do most of the inconsistencies with the original myth come from? Zeus. From the very start, the muses sing of how Zeus bested the Titans seemingly on his own, threw mighty thunderbolts and imprisoned them, making no mention of the help Zeus had, such as getting his patent thunderbolts from imprisoned monsters or poisoning his father so he would puke up the other Olympians. Also, Hades fought and defeated the Titans alongside Zeus, but more on Hades' defamation later. Then we're shown the biggest divergence from the myth of all, that Hercules was born of Hera and Zeus, and that the happy couple loved their son together until he's tragically kidnapped, whereupon he is adopted by the kind mortal man and wife, I can never say their names, Amphitryon and Alcmene. In the actual myth, Zeus cheats on Hera with Alcmene, however you say her name, while disguised as her husband. This whole "we actually rescued an abandoned baby we found on the road and adopted him into our family" thing is pretty convenient and makes everyone look pretty good, especially known cheater Zeus. I'm pretty sure there is plenty of gossip about his unfaithful ways, and he would want to portray a happy family like any good ruler. The movie also sets up most of the hardships that Hercules comes across as the actions of Hades, who makes a convenient scapegoat, since it was actually Hera throwing all these obstacles at Hercules in her jealousy. Really, all Hades ever did was maintain the underworld and insist that no one leave once there. That's its actual job, to maintain the natural balance of life and death. But instead, he gets blamed for all this business. Hercules fights some monsters trying to go back home. Everyone cheers. Zeus looks like a noble god and loving father. That's exactly it. Like, I feel like this story, Disney's version, was written by Zeus himself. You know, like, obviously, like, I know, but, like, you know, like, of course, you know, his wife wasn't a bad person. It was really his brother, the god of the underworld. And, you know, Hercules was made from love between him and his wife. But Zeus was, like, a serial cheater. And that's, like, very well known in Greek mythology, that Zeus is just a cheater. He's a big-time playboy. And Hercules was not Hera's. And Hera's hated Hercules. And, you know, she was the one who was making, like, all of these, like, obstacles for Hercules to go around. And it wasn't Hades. Like I said before, like, Hades' job is to maintain the underworld and not let people out. And, you know, although he might not like it there because it wasn't his choice to be there, you know, like, he's not, like, a villain like Disney makes him out to be. And yeah, he might not be, like, the best guy in the world, but, like, really, when your reputation is death, you know, everyone's gonna think you're the bad guy. But really, he's not. Why Jane and her family brought all those objects to their camp. In Tarzan, you can see that the porters brought all kinds of things to their camp, such as books, plates, and typewriters. I can understand why they brought things like books, obviously for academic purposes, and plates, everyday utensils. But I always wondered why they would bring things like gramophone, grandfather clock, and telescope. After all, the porters went to Africa to study gorillas. My theory is that while studying gorillas was their main goal, they had a side goal in their expedition to educate savages. The movie is set in the late 19th century where imperialism was still going on. Just as the poem White Man's Burden shows, interestingly enough, they mentioned Kipling in the movie. Europeans believed it was their duty to educate the savages in Asia and Africa. They brought all those objects to show and teach them to the natives. The best evidence to support this theory would be the projector. The projector contained a wide variety of images from trains to planets. What better way to teach non-English speakers about the Western world than to show pictures? And if my theory is correct, Jane and her father not only succeeded in their goal of studying gorillas, but they also succeeded in their goal of educating a savage. They did introduce Tarzan, a savage man, to the cultures of humans. That makes sense. Yeah. I don't know a lot about, like, imperialism or anything like that in the late 19th century, so, like, but, like, I always wonder that, too, like, why do they bring the objects? Like, at first I just thought that they were, like, just crazy overpackers, or that maybe, like, the porter's real reason for going there is because they wanted to, like, move there, but then, like, the rest of the movie doesn't really make sense. But yeah, showing, you know, modern things to savages, you know, makes sense. And then the last theory for this video, Tarzan and the animals weren't really talking. In the beginning of the movie, Kala only communicates with ooh and despite there being no humans around other than an abandoned baby. So why would she need to hide her ability to talk? When she shows Tarzan to the other apes, she and the other apes inexplicably become incredibly articulate. When Tarzan meets Jane, he communicates with the same sounds Kala was using at the beginning of the movie. Jane actually has to teach him English. It may just be that she couldn't hear him, as with many animal movies, but if that were the case, why couldn't he understand her? It's not like Dr. Dolittle, where the animals can't hear the humans, because Tarzan repeats Jane perfectly. I think that Tarzan and the animals were talking in their own communication. Like, obviously Tarzan didn't grow up learning, like, English. He grew up learning gorilla, so, like, you know, I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like they were communicating in their own language and not, you know, and of course, like, the movie had to make it. So they were, like, talking in English. So we wouldn't have to, like, read a big majority of the movie. But, like, you know, if you think about it, the other animals don't talk to Jane, because Jane doesn't know how to speak gorilla or elephant or anything like that, whereas Tarzan's been living amongst gorillas and elephants and all these different animals, and so he would pick up on the language. So yeah, I think they were talking, but obviously they weren't talking in English, they were just talking, like, you know, gorilla, whatever. And that's why Jane had to teach Tarzan English, because he was talking in gorilla. But obviously, like, if the whole movie they were talking gorilla and we had to have words on the screen, that really wouldn't work. It'd be a pretty boring movie to have to read the whole entire movie almost. So yeah, that is the end of this video. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you want to read these theories for yourselves, the links are in the description of this video. Tell me in the comments, like, what your theories for these 3 movies are. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.